We acknowledge the Darug people of the Eora Nation as the traditional owners of the land we work on. We pay our respects to elders, past, present, and emerging.
Always was, always will be.
Hi everyone, welcome to our podcast Mindshetra Talks Lost in Translation. We are a mother and daughter duo, Indian Australians living in Sydney. We are using our personal experiences and insights to connect and relate with people with similar experiences.
We are using this podcast as our voice to unpack topics that are often lost in translation within our South Asian community. We are doing this podcast with the intention to break down the barriers in communication that may exist between parents and children, and we hope to offer some talking points to instigate these conversations. Hi everyone, welcome to the third episode of the second season of Mindshetra Talks Lost in Translation. We have a special guest with us today, Poornima Aunty. But before we get started and introduce who she is, I thought we'd start with maybe like a little story telling some anecdotes to start with the episode. I guess I'm thinking about that, Mummy, do you ever wish that sometimes you had a son?
Hi everyone, welcome to our podcast as well. Do I ever wish I had a son? I had a son. Sometimes I have, not because I don't want daughters, but I thought it would be nice to have the opportunity to raise both the son and the daughter. But I've never wished that my daughters were sons, if it makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Do you have any like what happened to you? Because we were talking about this before we started, that a while ago you had an incident with someone.
A while ago, I've met them after a very long time. They are one of my college mates. So they are what would you call them as my peers. So they are similar in age, and we've met after a very long time. And so then we were catching up as we do, and we were asking all these life audit questions. So what did you end up doing? How many kids do you have? And all those things. And it was surprising to me because when they asked me and I said I have 2 daughters, the follow-up question was, no son?
How typical.
And I was like, no. And then the next follow-up question was, are you going to try for them?
Oh.
And I was like, no, I've got nearly 2 adult daughters. She said, it's never too late to try.
Never too late to try for a son, right?
Yeah, never too late to try for a son.
I know. I feel like in terms of mental health, I feel like do you feel like that places a lot of...
I can talk from a very personal point of view. I grew up with a brother, and I noticed that I'm not trying to generalize it as part of a culture, but at the umbrella, though my parents were quite open, there were certain unspoken rules which were I thought I was treated differently because I was a girl. There were certain things which were allowed for him, which were not allowed for me. And that sense kind of continues even as I've grown up. So that is something I have kind of noticed. And it's very subtle in my case, not as if it's not a very overt discrimination, but there is an underlying thing of you're a girl, you have to do this. He's a boy, he can do this, and certain things like my life decisions have been mostly guided by this factor that I had to get married at a certain time before I did my master's or something like that.
Amazing. I mean, not amazing, but thank you for sharing. And I guess that's a great introduction into Miss Poornima Menon, as I call her Poornima Aunty.
Yeah, I love that.
She is a leader, a motivator, a humanist, and an educator. She's the mind behind the Facebook group Sari Club Sydney and the founder of 5 Pleats, a business venture that takes you through the bylanes of rural India, where artisans weave and embroider this 6-yard wonder with love. It is a unique venture where all saris are sourced directly from the weavers, and the majority of the proceeds go back to the weavers. Poornima Aunty is also the mum of 2 adult children who have ventured into very successful entrepreneurial journeys in Australia.
Thank you, Riti, for that wonderful
you're
introduction.
welcome. Thank you for joining us on
my
this
pleasure.
podcast.
I'm loving this knitting. This is I know. Rupa's got me to do something that I'm not very comfortable with. That's all right.
No, I thought how fitting it would be for you to do knitting because
Yeah,
you
I
deal with
know.
a lot of waves, and we are talking about conversations which are like interwoven in the
Yes.
society. And
yes. Makes
for me,
perfect sense.
I know you through, I started knowing you through a very social context. And today I thought you would be the most apt person to have a conversation because I am not qualified enough to have a conversation about what is the difference between raising sons and daughters. I have
Daughters.
two of them. But you have two sons,
Yes,
and
I've
you
got
have
two
raised
sons.
them successfully to be contributing adults into the community, and you yourself are an entrepreneur and they have an entrepreneurial journey. So I thought it would be great to kind of bring you on
Thank
board.
you. And I think we're talking about a topic that's quite close to my heart. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Amazing. I think we'll start with, can you tell us a little bit about what your sons do?
Okay, so Nishant and Tushar. So Nishant is my older son. Tushar is my younger one. They started a company called My Muscle Chef. Both of them have got no background in business. So it's not like they come from a business family and so they decided to, dabble in business. But I think they sort of saw a gap in the market. They came up with a great idea. They saw a gap in the market. And I think one of the things that I'm very proud about my sons are that they work very well with each other. They're 5 years apart. And I think they have got a lot of respect for each other and they work very well together. And together, because they complement each other in whatever they do, together they, started My Muscle Chef, which started as a very small family business. We had 5 employees, which would be the 4 of us with a chef. And and I think our first order was about 25 boxes of food. Today we have over 500 employees.
Wow.
Yes, and we are the leading online food distribution business in Australia.
Wow.
And it's grown into a large corporate company today. So
Wow.
a lot of hard work has gone into it. But I must say that, one couldn't have done without the other. So the success story of My Muscle Chef is Nishant and Tushar working together.
Oh,
Yes.
wonderful.
And for me, I wanted to pick your brains because I am often told that the way you raise your girls, you can't raise your girls the same way as you raise your boys. So as someone who has had first-hand experience like influencing boys to become men, do you feel there is a difference in the way we bring up our girls and our boys? And if they are, what are they?
Okay, so what I want to say is that there is an unconscious bias.
Okay.
There is an unconscious bias in the way we raise boys and girls. And I think the reason is that the parents are a bit too overprotective about the girls. And they are sort of conditioned from a very young age that there are certain things that they can do and there are certain things that they can't do. So they grow up believing that because they're conditioned that way. And it's not I don't think it's something parents do it on purpose. It is because of the way they are raised. And seeing what's happening in the world around us today, we want to protect our children. And so we raise girls with that kind of an unconscious bias. And I think the other thing too is that we should, I think parents don't consider that boys can be vulnerable as well. And
So true.
When you don't think about that way, you are actually putting your sons at risk because you're not preparing them for what is out there in the world. Because you're sending them out there thinking that, oh, I'm this person and I've got all these special privileges and I can do whatever I want. I think parents raise daughters and sons differently. But I don't think they're doing their sons any favor by doing that because they're not preparing their sons for the world that they should be, they're going out into, because today's world is a very, very complex world.
And when you talk about unconscious bias, you're talking about those little nuances where in an everyday thing, the dress you wear, the time you can come home, the type of people you
Did you
go
ever have
with.
anything like that?
I think it's not thing. There was always that curfew where the girls had to come home earlier than the boys. But then, like the conversations I've had with my, colleagues or my friends as well is that why? Why is it okay for a boy to be out there late? Isn't he being, like there's a risk attached to him being out there as well by himself? Because I feel that, when it comes to safety, boys and girls, there's no difference. There's no difference.
It's very interesting you say that. Is that something? And have you been grown up in a family of sisters, or do you have sons?
Yes. So that's interesting because like I've grown up with in a family of 2 girls.
Okay.
So it's just me and my sister.
Okay.
And I must say that I was very fortunate that I had quite progressive parents.
Okay.
We had a curfew and we had to be home by this time. So I don't know if it was a boy, if he would have got a longer time to stay away or not.
Yes.
But I don't think the way I was raised, I was ever made to feel that you're a girl, so you got to be careful kind of a thing. They always said that, you have to be back by 8:30 or 9 o'clock or 6:30 or 7. There was a curfew. And if I went out with my friends who were boys as well, I think they all went back home at the same time because we all lived in the same colony.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't see the boys loitering around. We all went back home and did whatever we had to do. And I think that's how the world was then. I think the world is a bit more complicated now. And I think, it comes down to parents. Actually, it comes down to parents. And if you think that your boy is better than, your son is better than your daughter, or your son can look after himself better than your daughter
That's where the
can.
problems start.
Yeah. But who's responsible for that? Have you prepared your daughter to look after herself? Have you told her why she shouldn't be out late? Instead of just saying, oh, you need to come back home early just because you're a girl. Now that's that's what I think puts the girl on a back foot, saying that, why do you have to come back home because I'm a girl? Why don't you tell your daughter, you got to come back home because it's not safe to be out there after it's dark. It can be dangerous. And you tell the same thing to your son as well. Come back home and it's dark. It's not safe for anybody to be out
Yes, it's
there,
not safe. It doesn't, irrespective of the gender. It's very interesting you say that, because I'm definitely a generation after you, I think.
Yeah.
And my parents were quite different in that. So they were really good people. They were very, kind and generous. And when it came, and I completely understand when you say it's very unconscious bias. We moved from city to a small town. And in that small town, it had that, a village mentality. When you go in there, they were more worried about what other people will say, just because they were new to the place and it was not a city environment. So there was a lot of changes. Like, my brother could still stayed in the same school and went to the same kind of city school, while I was moved schools because it is not safe for a girl to travel. It is a long distance. Same, because it was, you're not out. Bringing boys into your home is like, what would it's not even overtly what would other people say. It's a very silent undercurrent, it's a very silent undercurrent. And I think that kind of influences how you instill self-confidence. I love that you said, what parents do at home is the main thing which instills self-esteem and self-confidence in kids.
I think that's so important that you were saying that. I think my question for you is a bit of like a hypothetical one. Do you ever think about, do you ever think about if I had daughters, how it would be different? Or I wish I ever had a daughter?
No.
Do you think about how if your sons were daughters?
I've never felt that. I've never felt that what it would be like if I had a daughter, or, if my sons were daughters, what would it be like? I've never thought about that at all.
Has anyone asked you, are you going to try for a daughter?
Not anyone hasn't asked me, but my husband was very keen to have a daughter. So, but I told him, I said, we're not having more than 2. But yes, he really, really, wanted a daughter. But having said that, I think I have not missed having a daughter, because generally when I look at ladies who've got, or friends who've got daughters, they say, oh, daughters are great company. We can talk to them whatever we want. They understand or whatever. But I felt the same with my boys. I talk to them about everything. I've had an amazing relationship with them, to the extent that we also talk girly stuff.
Oh.
You know,
What
so,
standard stuff do you talk about if you don't mind
so,
sharing? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, no, like I would, like, let's say if I go shop for something, I would, wear my clothes and parade in front of them and say, oh, what do you think about this? This is something that I would have done if I had a daughter as well.
Yes.
True.
So, and I've done that from the time when they're very young. Like, you go buy dresses together, you do things together. They'll wear theirs, I'll wear mine. And, we used to do things. But having said that, I think if I had a daughter, she probably would be a tomboy, because I don't think I would have raised her any differently than how I've raised my boys.
Wow.
Okay, that's an interesting thing.
Yeah,
So
I
let
don't
me
think
ask
so.
you this then.
Yeah.
So for me, when I was growing up, and I think my influence, my parenting style influenced on a lot of raising girls who were independent, who were financially independent, who knew what they were, who could advocate for themselves. So there were certain things I was particular that I teach them at certain stages in life. What are some of the things you think is very essential at what stages? That you have taught or you think is very crucial to teach your boys?
Okay, so I think one of the things which is important is for boys to understand that they are kids, they're not boys. I think that's the first differentiation you have to make, that kids are kids, be it boys
Kids
or
are
girls.
kids, yeah.
Kids are kids, okay.
So don't treat them like, oh, you're a boy child, so you get all these special privileges or anything. I think that it is very important for them to understand that. The other really important thing is that children learn by observing, not by listening.
Wow.
So the father in the house is their biggest role model. For a boy, it's a father who's the biggest role model. And how is the relationship between the father and the mother at home? I think that is really important, how the father speaks to the mother or how the mother responds to the father. I think that is really important, because if there's respect there, then that's what they see. They see their father respecting their mother for who she is, for what she does, and they grow up seeing that. And I think it's also important for them to know that as adults, it is okay to make mistakes. And if adults make mistakes, then they do apologize for the mistakes they make. They don't sort of think that, oh, because I'm the dad, I can get away with whatever I want. So I don't need to apologize. I think it is also important for people, for kids to understand, especially for boys, because, they view things a bit differently than the girls. I think it's very important for them to understand that it's okay to feel upset. It's okay to be angry about things. It's okay to have an argument, but you can do it in a very respectful manner. Because I think one of the things boys really struggle with is expressing themselves without having their testosterone getting out of the roof, yelling and screaming and, all this, because that's what boys do when they're angry. I think it's very important for them to understand that you can express yourself without blowing steam. You can tell what you want to tell, but in case you say things in a wrong way and you think if you upset that person, that's okay too. Just apologize.
Yeah, teaching them to apologize.
I think boys find it very difficult to apologize because they think they're never wrong. And I think it is really important for them to understand that things can go wrong. And it's okay if things go wrong, but when they go wrong, just acknowledge that I've made a mistake and just apologize for it. It's when they say child is a father of man, there is a reason for it.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I feel like the mother has a big role to play in raising boys, definitely. But I think the father has a bigger role to play.
Wow.
Father has definitely a big role to play.
And was that something that you like?
We have been very conscious about how we behave around our children. And honestly speaking, I don't think we have sort of sat down and planned. This is how we have to speak with the kids. But I think we both, we knew. And the other thing too, with boys, and I think probably it should be with all kids, particularly boys, is they're very good at playing one against the other. Okay,
like pitting against each other.
Yes. And so if we disagreed with each other, we never disagreed with each other in front of them.
Okay, that's
Okay,
true for the
so-
girls as well. They
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
I
So
call
you
them a
have to
little
have
bit
like a-
manipulative. They know.
So I think there what happens is that when it comes to boys, they understand that dad may be dad, but he's not going to support us because we're boys. He's going to still be supporting mom. So then
okay,
that
I got you
respect
like
for
that.
mom, for whatever mom says, comes in because they know that we can't get away with it because dad is just going to say listen to mom. So that was another very conscious decision that we made, that if you disagree, we disagree behind closed doors. We don't do it in front of them. So yeah.
Like the teaching not to apologize, teaching not to take responsibility. How do you think that impacts them and their mental health and as they grow up as men? How do you think as it is actually showing in the society?
Okay, so if you teach them that it's okay for them to do things because they're boys, they can get away with it. You're teaching them that you have two kinds of rules just because you have two different genders.
Yeah.
And then what they'll do is that they'll go ahead and make all these mistakes, get into trouble. And then when they get into trouble, they'll not understand why. And this happens at a very young age. Like what I've told my boys is that stand up for yourself. Don't give privileges to a woman or a girl because she's a girl. Don't do it.
Okay.
Don't do it. And I think when I have had conversations with my kids as well about it, I have never supported a situation based on the gender of the person who is a part of that situation.
Okay. Got you.
Okay, so even at work, I know that my female colleagues have told me that I'm very anti-woman. And I said, I'm not anti-woman. I'm anti what the woman does and uses her sex to get to where she wants to.
Because equality can't, if we are asking for equality and if we are
Absolutely.
wanting to smash patriarchy, that means we need to be treated equally. as
Equally,
well.
absolutely, absolutely.
My question for you is, how did you ensure you made a comfortable living environment so that your boys could express themselves freely, especially in a society where men's mental health and men being vulnerable in a society is not very accepted, especially, I'm going to further that, in a South Asian society where we sort of look down on men crying and being vulnerable.
Yeah. So I think open conversations are important, but I think more importantly, conversations on all matters are very important. So no matter should be trivialized. You can't say this is more important than the other one. I think any matter that is raised by your child is important. The reason the child is raising that matter with you is because they think it is important. I think one of the mistakes that we parents make is that we sort of gauge the importance of a topic based on our understanding of the topic.
Okay.
Oh, that's so simple. That's so silly. Why are you asking me such a silly question? For a child, no question is silly.
It's out of curiosity.
Correct. And for a child to gather the courage to go and ask their parent a question, I think the parent has to respect that.
I think so too.
That
Yeah.
part of it. And I think another really important thing is that a home should be a place where all facades fall and a child can be who he or she is. If a child, be it a son or a daughter, particularly a son, because there's a lot of expectations, if they think that they have to impress their parents all the time and that they have to be seen as doing the right thing all the time, that puts a lot of pressure on them. And that's when they start becoming dishonest. Because they'll say, oh, if I say this, probably my mom won't like it or my dad won't like it. So I'm not going to tell them this. I'll tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah.
So when we start doing that, I don't think we are creating a safe environment for them, because home is a place where you can experiment. Home is a very controlled atmosphere where you are among people who love you, who know you, who nurture you, who can keep you safe. So you can experiment everything that you want at home because your best guidance comes from there. So if as parents we give them that freedom to express whatever they want to do, without any judgment, saying that I'm here, I think you will prepare them very well for the outside world. They will never doubt themselves. They will never doubt themselves.
I do have a personal question to ask.
Yes.
I hope you don't mind answering it when it comes to raising boys versus girls.
Yeah.
And this is like a pet peeve of me. Like I get a little, how do I call it? I get very miffed when people talk about it when
Yeah.
it comes to household chores.
Yes.
There is an expectation in South Asian communities that girls have to be taught
Correct.
how to keep house, how to cook, how to make a decent meal. You know, they say,
Yeah,
"Ye bhi
yeah.
nahi aata hai." You know,
Correct,
you-
correct,
all
correct,
those things that you
correct.
have, these set expectations. So when we
Yeah.
are talking about a home environment, along with open conversations, is there really a difference between how we raise our girls and our boys? And should there be a difference? Because I think we should all know how to do all these chores.
Correct. Okay, so I have a confession to make there. and believe me that it would have been no different if it was a daughter.
Okay.
Okay. In fact, probably it would have been worse if it was a daughter, because if I had a daughter, I would have thought, oh, she's got to go and do this anyway. So why should she do it at home? That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
Because when
So you're still thinking that outside in the society that is
she
going
probably
to be
may
an
have to
expectation.
yeah, because the thing
Okay.
is, see, I have no control about what's happening outside.
True.
I only have control over what's happening inside my home,
Mm.
right? So in my home, so if I say that, so let's say that I had a daughter,
Mm.
hypothetically, right? She meets a guy, she falls in love with him, whatever. She gets married. She has fallen in love with the boy, and that's where she didn't have a choice about the family she's going into,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So probably her, the boy's parents or mom or whoever expects certain things of my daughter.
Yeah.
And she probably will do it because she's not the kind of person who wants to go and rock the boat.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So what I would have, so having, I look at it that way and I say that she's got to do that anyway if she chooses to, or, if she's lucky that she's got a partner who shares it with her, fine. But look at the worst case scenario. She will have to go out there and do it anyway. So why should she do it at home?
Okay. So you would not train her to do it at
No,
home?
I would not train her because that's not a life skill she needs to learn. That is
Okay.
something she will learn on her own. Like you put someone in a kitchen, she'll learn how to
Figure
cook.
out eventually.
Of course.
Oh, you
she may
should
burn
look
a
at
few
her.
dishes, she may burn her hand a couple of times. But I don't think that is such a huge skill that, you've got enough cookery books these days, YouTubes, and my son, because you asked me that question, my sons, both of them, are like chalk and cheese in all matters.
Okay.
Okay, they're very, very different. My older one doesn't like the spelling of kitchen. And but he loves food.
Okay.
So he's the kind who would say that, oh, I'm not going to cook, I'll just order.
Okay.
Because these days, you get everything.
Yeah.
But my younger one is different.
Okay.
He loves to cook. So he'll watch YouTube videos and he'll, cook things. And he will even find fault in my cooking because he says that he makes a better steak than I do, which is true. Which is true.
At least to hear this, you have to hear the podcast.
So and the thing is that I have not taught both my sons to cook.
Okay.
Honestly, I have not taught both of them to cook because I thought that is something that, they will fend for themselves. I don't have to teach them. But having said that, they used to take part in all the other household chores.
Okay, got it.
Vacuuming, gardening, loading the dishwasher, cleaning up their room. I never, ever compared my kids with each other.
Okay.
Never.
Mm-hmm.
That, this person does this, why can't you do this? This person does that, and why can't you do that? I've never done that because I think that each of them have their own
Strengths.
and weaknesses. And I think that has actually worked very, very well when they started the business together. Because they never felt that one was better than the other. They just felt that we complement each other. Yeah. And I think that's also very important.
I
Very
guess
important,
to
yeah.
wrap up my question about the earlier topic,
Yeah.
when it comes to, free labor, often gender plays a major role where the woman is given and that impacts a lot on our mental health too, because the woman not only has to go out and do a lot of things, the internal expectations, her own expectations there.
Yeah.
So what you are saying is, it all starts at home and it doesn't matter, irrespective of the gender. There are certain things which you need to kind of teach them as kids, as young people, as, whatever it is, as part of a household, some responsibility, something, so that they know that when it's not a given that somebody else is going to come and become your mom after you're an adult,
And also I think that teaching them things around the home is to make them a part of that home. Not because they're going to go and, they have to do it when they leave home. That's a very wrong concept. You got to do all these things because when you go wherever, you have to do it. That's a very wrong concept. You do all these things because you are a part of this family. Everyone is doing something and you need to do something to be a part of this family because together we do things. So if mom is cooking in the kitchen, be it a son or a daughter, come and help her chop the vegetables, come and help her do this or do that, and don't say, to the daughter, oh, you got to learn this because later on you have to use it in
When
life.
you get
No,
married
you
and
don't
all
need
that.
to.
Yeah.
You can order food from outside.
Yeah, true. Same.
Literally. Same time.
These days you have so many home kitchens.
Yes.
You really don't have to cook. Or order my master chef.
For me, another very important question I had to ask. Now, you're an
Yeah.
entrepreneur yourself.
Yeah.
You became an entrepreneur here
Yeah.
in Australia.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure outside in the society, you would have faced a lot of misogyny, right?
Yeah.
How did facing those double standards as a woman impact you as a mother in raising? Did it influence or did it not influence?
No.
Okay.
It did not influence me in any way in how I raised my boys because I know what values I've given them and I know what the kind of conversations that I've had with them. And like I said, everything starts at home. If someone has behaved in a certain manner with me or any other woman out there in the community, it just tells them that how they have been raised or,
Yes.
or what sort of morals they have. But having said that, when something like that happens with me or I've seen something or witnessed something or anything like that, I always go back home and discuss that with my kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I speak most of the things to my husband. And when my kids were old enough, I've always spoken to them about all of this. And I think it is important for them to understand that there are men out there who do these, who behave in these manners. And that when men like that behave in those manners, my mom doesn't like it. She gets upset about it, and then they would start thinking that if my mom can get upset about it, then I'm sure that other ladies get upset about it as well.
Yeah.
Because they always equate everything starts from home. So and I remember, when I see things and I come and say, and they tell them, I says, Mom, that's really wrong. They shouldn't be behaving like that. But having said that, I told you earlier as well, they also knew that I'm not one of those who just picks on men. I'm not that one of those people who will say, oh, what that man did was wrong. If there was a lady who did the wrong thing, because ladies can be mean to other women as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So if ladies do the wrong thing, then I would speak about that too. I saw this particular lady, she behaved this way. So they know that what I'm bringing back home and the conversations I'm having with them is very neutral and unbiased. I'm not supporting one gender.
Yeah.
And when they see that, they then know that, if I feel a particular way or I'm expressing something a particular way, it's genuine and that person, whatever that person did or the way they behaved is wrong, and they will call it out themselves.
It's a very rare thing to see in a South Asian family. Do you agree with that? Like is it something, because I used to find that the way I am raising my daughters, like all the feedback which I get from their own kind of peers was that, in our family, it's quite different, and you can sense that when your kids go out in the world and come back.
And I'll tell you why, Rupa. That's because there are parents who like to do what their parents did.
Yes.
And there are parents who like to correct the mistakes that their parents did. So as kids, when we have grown up watching our parents raise us, we have learned from them what to do and what not to do. And I think we as parents are breaking that cycle and saying that, okay, this was done when I was young, or I saw someone's parent behave this way when I was young. I definitely don't want to do that.
Yeah. Very true.
So
Very
it's
true.
all about breaking the cycle. And I think it can be broken by anybody at any point.
Very true. And I think it just takes a decision to break it. I think.
Definitely.
And it's the individual. Like I said, it is you who does it. And kids come to you as a clay, like a mold of clay, and you can mold them the way you want them.
Wow.
want
That was a
them to
great
be.
analogy. I think to close this episode,
Yeah.
because we've had such insightful discussion,
Thank you.
I think I want you to maybe leave the audience.
Yeah.
Do you have anything particular you want to leave the audience
Any myths?
with? And particularly, I want to ask you, is there any certain myths that people think that comes when you raise sons?
Yes. Okay. So one of
I
the
can kind of relate to one of the things, boys will be boys.
yes.
Myth or
yes,
fact?
yes.
It's a myth or fact.
Boys will be boys like girls will be girls.
Yes.
No, you know what?
how is it-
No,
Yeah,
like it's like
it's
an escape.
Yeah.
How is it any different? Like, okay, girls, they always tell them, oh, she's such a
Men don't
drama
cry.
queen.
Yes.
So why don't you say girls will be girls?
Yeah, but okay, men don't cry. Is that a myth or a real men
no,
don't cry?
Real men don't
cry.
No, it's a myth. I'll tell you why it's a myth. Because just because you're physically strong and because
Yeah.
you have a strong, your anatomy makes you strong, doesn't mean you're mentally strong.
True. Mental care.
And I think that is the problem that
Yeah.
people have. They think that, because he is strong, he has to be mentally and emotionally strong.
Yeah.
And that is just not true. That's the biggest fallacy or myth that people have to, do away with.
Yeah.
That boys hurt, boys feel, boys are allowed to cry. And I think crying is the best way to express yourself. And that has never been a problem. And in fact, I tell them, I say, if you feel like crying, just cry. That's what I tell, because I cry.
Yeah.
Like when they tell me something and they upset me, I cry in front of them. And I say that you upset me, I'm very, very unhappy, and I'll cry. And I tell them, I said, and so it's actually a running joke in my family that if my sons will tell me something,
Yeah.
and they say, "Oh, are you going to cry now?" So I think that is the biggest myth about boys, is that they should not cry. But crying is a very natural thing.
Yeah.
When you feel sad, you cry.
Yeah.
So are you telling them that the boys are not allowed to feel sad? So if they can't feel sad, then how do they feel? Like, what do they do?
Okay. What do you think about this statement? Boys are really good at sports.
No. No. Not all. And the thing is, not all boys are good at sports, because some boys are very good at art.
Yes. True.
So they don't think that. So are they saying that boys can't be good artists? So what happened to Picasso then?
Well, some didn't accept him as an artist for a very long time.
Yeah.
Are there any other myths you kind of hear and you go, oh my God, that's quite cringy?
No, I think this is the thing about, boys don't cry, or boys don't play with dolls, or,
Yes. Boys shouldn't wear pink.
Pink. Oh, no, and boys, you shouldn't be dressing up your son in a frock, and, you shouldn't be tying up his hair. Like, I've done all of that. I've got my younger son in a frock. He had nice curly hair. I used to tie it up, I think I haven't heard a lot of myths uttered in my presence. I think
They are all
just
scared
because
of
people,
you.
because just people know what my response to it
yeah.
would be. And like I said, I've had very progressive parents, so that's fine. And I've got a nephew as well, and my sister is sort of like me. So So we've not had.
So we are just coming to the end of the thing, and
So
we're
we
just going
I
to.
think we
reflect on-
chatted quite a
We
bit.
did.
Nice.
We did.
Let's
Yeah.
reflect on what we've made.
Okay.
I've made this lovely scarf.
Look at me.
Yes.
How long is that?
We were going to put something together. So,
A
but
lovely scarf.
Yeah.
so what I did, the
nice.
mic is moving. So
Okay,
I
it's not a
actually,
competition.
sorry, the mic is
I actually did the other layer so that I can. Kind
That's
of,
okay. You're the one who taught us, so
yes.
the teacher can't gloat.
No.
Yeah.
I've just
No,
removed
but
everything now. I don't know how to tie this up.
No, what we were going to do is
Yeah.
put, as we are continuing to do this, we were
Yeah.
thinking that we will try and put all the things together so
Anyway,
that it looks like
I've
an
taken it
artwork.
all out of my
No,
fingers.
that's okay. Don't worry.
You'll have to work it out. Rupa.
But
Okay.
I mean, thank you so much for joining us
No,
for
my
this
pleasure.
episode.
I had so much of fun. It
Thank
was
you
so
so
good.
much.
And to end the episode,
Yes.
we just reflect on the top 3 points we want
Yes.
to take away for
Super quickly.
Yeah.
very, very quickly. What are the top 3? So I'll come back to the question. Do you think raising sons is different to raising daughters?
No.
You heard
raising
it here first.
sons is not different to raising daughters. You
Yeah.
just have to change your mindset.
Okay.
Wow.
What are some of the tools and tips? I think you said you have to have open conversations.
Yes, open conversations. The father
Mhm.
plays a very important role in raising boys, and I think whoever is listening to your podcast needs to take that on board. Mothers, yes, they can give the emotional part of it, but son always watches his father.
Okay, and what happens? So I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. What
Yeah.
happens to a lot of women, a lot of people nowadays have like, single moms or they have single parent child. So would you then say that it would be like, a male role model is somebody very important in their life as well?
Yes,
Because they look at a very...
Yes. So they can have a male role model. It doesn't have to be, if it's a single mom, it can be an uncle. It can be a friend's husband. You can look for male role models out there, and you'll find in plenty. Sorry, I think my mic is moving. Having said that, your role models can also be out in the community. Like you can get your son to listen to podcasts or listen to motivational speakers. And, there are many ways of doing it. And if you're a single mom and you think, oh, my son doesn't have a role model, then you can reach out to someone who can help you. It could be a teacher at school.
Yeah.
But it's important for a boy to have a good role model, because a mom can show a lot of things, but there are certain things, like not everything she can.
Yeah. And I guess my point to add was, it is very, very important when it comes to mental health, how we treat our kids, and this particular concept of equality, as you would agree. Do you agree that it starts with home?
Everything starts at home. Everything starts at home, and everything starts with the mother. It's very interesting because she's the one who sets the standards in the house.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
She's the one who sets the standard, because if she puts her foot down and she says that she wants things a certain way, it will happen that way.
Okay.
Everybody
Amazing.
will buy into that. Yeah.
What do you have any takeaways, Riddhi?
That it's all about equality, and it all starts from the home.
Yes.
Okay, so now you can't complain that I'm treating you any differently.
Okay.
You heard it from the horse's mouth.
See, you know where it was going.
Yeah, I do.
There you go. I don't treat her any differently. She would have heard the same thing if she was a boy.
I agree. Anyways, if you guys really like this episode, please leave us some feedback. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Poornima
thank
Aunty,
you.
for
Thank
coming
you very
on.
much for having me. It was very enjoyable, and I think we spoke about a lot of things in a very fun-filled atmosphere.
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
very
we
good.
did. Thank
Amazing.
you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.